But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
Greetings, lads and lasses, and welcome to HBR News number 172. Democrats getting sick of identity politics. Well, mostly. I am your host, Brian Martinez, and I am here with my, esteemed alt-right, entitled, rape apologizing, room cleaning, incel, red pill Reddit posting, fedora tipping, fascist Pepe loving, Trump supporting, Nazi apologizing, This Is America memeing, women enslaving poo-poo heads to talk about the best feels, funnies, and what the fucks to discuss Clam Slam Badger style. Let's just get started, shall we? Today's panel consists of the usual suspects, Mike J., Hannah Wallen, Dr. Ranimer Cam, and me, the Doge in charge. Yes, I know, I didn't do joke sport this time. Sue me. We have a great show lined up for you guys today, so please be sure to continue the conversations both in the chat and in the comments section. On this week's HBR News Show, we'll be looking at how the Democratic Party is starting to distance themselves from identity politics, with one exception. I'll give you guys a little bit of time to think about what that exception might be. Ezra Klein defends the hashtag #KillAllMen, catcalling Alecandira Ocasio-Cortez, and much more. And please stick around afterwards for the patron-only after show. According to writer Laura Pendergast, more and more men are taking better care of themselves and taking more and more of an interest in their own health, their wellness, and their appearance. And she doesn't like it. Not only that, but can you guess what she thinks men suddenly caring about themselves is actually supposed to mean? Anyway, if you'd like to participate in our after shows, either as an audience member or as a participant, please consider becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. And if you don't want to wake up one morning to find yourself unable to find our content because YouTube finally dropped the axe on our channels, go to badgerfeed.com. That's badgerfeed.com. And without further ado, let us get into Les Stories. So I think I'm going to be starting this one up. Yes, we're going to be playing Identity Politics because that's so much fun. All right, so playing identity politics does not help Democrats. After the election of Donald Trump, Democrats and those on the left lost their collective shits. Since then, Democrats have been heavily focused on trying to take back control of the House of Representatives and the Senate from Republican control. Recently, however, there has also been a progressive wave in the primaries that has been inspired by those leaning even farther left. Identity politics has been at the forefront in recent months. However, just because a person would fall higher in the progressive stack doesn't necessarily mean that they have fared better in the primaries. Some fun facts from 538. 1/4, or about a quarter, of the Democrat candidates identified as non-white. However, overall, they only won about 28% of the primaries. For LGBT candidates, 34 are running in 2018, and their primary success rate was 28% overall. I wonder if that includes Brianna Wu. According to 538, the only identity that appeared to help a candidate was being a woman. They said that, quote, in fact, all else being equal, being a woman has been worth an additional 10 percentage points over being a man in the open Democratic primaries we looked at, 538 reported.
10 percentage points of emotional labor.
That's one of the two biggest effects we found amongst all the variables we looked at. Having prior experience as a politician also helped out. Regarding 34 people who have worked for Barack Obama running in the primaries, quote, 13 have won their primary races so far for a win rate of 38%. In our estimation, being associated with Obama in this way was worth about 5 points of vote share on the average primary. However, the standard error is the standard of error is large here, so we can't say for sure whether being an Obama alum really helps all that much. So, I found that really interesting because it does say something that I've been sort of talking about for a while now. Being a part of a, let's say, a protected class of people, it may sound as though it has a lot of value, but I don't think anything beats being a woman when you're going to use it for political leverage. And I think that this is evidence of that. Either that, or because we are talking about a comparison of, say, the far left, who tend to use identity politics a lot more, versus the moderate left, who don't really think about it as much, I think that the moderate left would still be more influenced by women in the same way that the moderate right, center right, or the far right would, because of just our general propensity to sort of prioritize women in general as a group. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that, but I thought it was an interesting story to look at. Anybody?
Yeah, if my mute button will let me.
Oh, okay, okay.
I've been kind of watching the Democrats and Republicans go back and forth on identity politics for years and years and years. And that's been sort of the territory of the Democrat Party for all of my life. And of course, I have family that was Democrat when I was a little kid that became Republicans during the Reagan administration because of Ronald Reagan's economic success. And I know there's going to be Democrats in the chat going, it wasn't a success, but it was. And you just have to deal with it. The fact is, there are other things that will outweigh identity politics, and that's one of them. If you set things up so that people are doing better financially, people's circumstances are better a year or two into your presidency, you get new voters, and you shake the other party right to its foundations. And that's what Trump has done. It's what Reagan did, and it's what Trump has done. And they're looking at identity politics now going, well, this is our core, this is our base, this is our bottom line, and finding out with the walk away movement that it's not.
Mm-hmm. Identity politics isn't some new thing, by the way, or some lofty thing that only politicians do or only activists do. It happens all the time. I've been noticing it more and more, like even in everyday conversation or whatever. If someone cheats, you call them a cheater, even if they've only cheated once. Like if someone cheats, then you now have a noun you get to call them, and all the garbage and the baggage that noun comes with. Drink, you're a drunk. If you do a thing that's not approved of, then you're not just seen as a person who performs an action. You now have a noun. You know what I mean? That's identity politics on a sort of micro. Not that I'm calling it a microaggression.
The people are saying that your volume is low, Mike. Maybe turn yourself up a little bit. Turn your mic up, Mike.
I've got the same problem as everyone else. I've got the fan, and
are you guys?
With my voice for the compression qualification.
The chat says there's some white noise coming from you, Brian, I think.
Maybe it's my fan. I could turn my volume down a little bit. I apologize, guys. It's hot as fuck over here, so I need to, like, I'll just turn my mic down a bit. Okay, so anyway, you hear my fan. I apologize. Mike, you were saying, or are you good?
I've finished. I think they heard me say it, and I can't remember what it was anymore. So yeah, let's move on.
You were talking about identity politics on a micro scale,
and
how everybody uses it. Yeah. See, I was listening. Does anybody else have any thoughts on this? I guess what I'm getting at is ultimately, when it comes to identity politics, the most effective one seems to still be the woman card. That's a card that you always have access to. So.
And yet, there are still people who will tell you that gynocentrism isn't a real thing because it's existed throughout history.
Yes, absolutely. There's been a woman card since there were women, probably. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next story. Thank you guys for, and give us your thoughts on what I'm saying. What do you think about the story regarding that? It seems that with the sort of moderate Democrats, and I know this is a U.S. centric sort of news story, so I'm sure that there's probably similar things happening in other parts of, say, Europe and Canada and other areas of the West, if not everywhere, where this sort of thing, is still, there's probably a pattern across the board, But give us your thoughts on that. Do you think that that's the reason when it comes to identity politics, why the woman card is still useful and is still popular with people, even moderates, versus race and, sexuality and so on? So, okay, we're going to move on to the next story. Thanks, guys. All right. Where did my story go? Here we go. Why Kill All Men is fined by Vox. Vox published an article titled The Problem with Twitter as shown by Sarah Jeong Fracas, in which the author and founder of Vox, Ezra Klein, defended an old hashtag #KillAllMen. From the article. A few years ago, it became popular on feminist Twitter to tweet about the awful effects of patriarchal culture and attach the line #KillAllMen. This became popular enough that a bunch of people I know and hang out with and even love began using it in casual conversation. And you know what? I didn't like it. It made me feel defensive. It still makes me feel defensive. I'm a man, and I recoil hearing people I care about say that all men should be killed. But I also knew that wasn't what they were saying. They didn't want me put to death. They didn't want any men put to death. They didn't hate me, and they didn't hate men. #KillAllMen was another way of saying, quote, it would be nice if the world sucked less for women, end quote. Pause for effect. It was an expression of frustration with pervasive sexism. I didn't enjoy the way they said it, but that didn't mean I had to pretend I couldn't figure out what they meant. And if I had any questions, I could, ask and actually listen to the answer.
You sound like every boy who got beat my parents' mama, man. Sorry, I'm falling into a character there, but not quite finishing the voice. Yeah, you're saying the exact same shit as everyone who gets beaten up by his mama. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're making all the excuses you need to make. You started off by saying it became popular on feminist Twitter to tweet about the awful effects of patriarchal culture. They were just hating on men, dude. See, you're starting off with the fucking euphemisms and you're going nowhere but there from there. It's just feminists tweeting about how much they hate men and exaggerating it to wanting to kill them. Because they don't literally want to kill them.
Yeah.
But they do literally hate them. Okay?
I'm sure they wouldn't have the same attitude as somebody started a #RapeAllWomen.
Well, that actually sounds like hate, Hannah. That's different.
Yeah.
Women you can hate.
I'm sure that desiring to touch women is definitely hateful towards women. You definitely, if you hate somebody, you want them as close to you as humanly possible. That's always the most logical response to hating someone, is to want to grab them and press them against your body with as much force as you possibly can, because you definitely want to be close to them if you hate them. But yeah, I can see they would say that, but it would raise an outrage that could be heard in outer space if somebody started a hashtag #RapeAllWomen and then justified it by saying, you know what, I didn't like it. It made me feel defensive. It still makes me feel defensive. I'm a woman and I recoil hearing people I care about say that all women should be raped, but I also knew that wasn't what they were saying, and go on and just completely mirror that whole paragraph. They just wanted it would just be nice if the world sucked less for men. Therefore, rape all women. Well, that would totally piss them off. They would say that logic doesn't cover that. That's not rational. but they think it is when they apply it to kill all men. It's not just hypocrisy. It's a huge fucking blind spot. And the blind spot isn't whether or not what they are doing is rude or sexist or reprehensible. It's men's humanity. That's their blind spot. They don't see it.
Well, I think it's because they give men so much godlike agency that insults or even wishes for their demise should not affect them. Nobody has to care. And while there is some truth in it, in that most men probably wouldn't care to the point where it would keep them up at night, or they would be concerned about, if there's some way that they can gain the favor of these people, because men have basically better things to worry about, they probably still aren't happy with it. I mean, it's not cool to shit on entire groups of people, no matter what you might think they're going to respond to it.
It's a bit like saying kill all soldiers, except when you hear kill all soldiers, you can sort of make sense of it in a way. That's kind of what soldiers are for. I mean, that's what you say if you are a soldier. You kill all the other soldiers. But still, if you tweeted hashtag kill all soldiers, it would. Some people would see the funny side. A lot of people wouldn't. But apparently it's less more controversial than kill all men. Kill all men is fine. Soldiers are only disposable briefly. Men are disposable from birth until disposal.
Yeah, from birth until we're tired of them. So what you're saying is kill all men is just satire. That's probably what I think. That's what the defense would be. Oh, they're just mad and lashing out. Well, let's continue. I wonder what would happen if the suspension of offense taking to seek context was applied to the political left. Those that are not on the political left, rather. But anyway, Ash Scow has written an article on the Daily Wire about this hypocrisy. So, from the article, and by the way, guys, you may notice that Ash Scow has written 4 of the stories that we're talking about, and it's in part because she's written some good articles, and I'm friends with hers, but I like the stuff that she does. So, give credit to Ash for being awesome. From the article, John Ronson has kept track of some of these past internet mobs, including an incident from 2013 where a man and his friend were making low-volume jokes at a tech conference. I don't know if you remember this one, when a woman photographed them and complained on Twitter that they were making sexual comments. The jokes involved such jargon as dongles and forking and repository. It didn't matter what they were talking about, it didn't matter that they were talking about women or sexual assault. The woman's offense was more important. The man was fired for a private joke soon after. The woman received her own backlash and claimed to Ronson that she spoke up about the jokes because of fear that these men would do something to her, a person they weren't even talking to and probably didn't even notice. There was no suspension of offense or context. No attempt to understand that perhaps the men weren't really saying what the women believed that they were. Ash continues. The point here is that leftists like Klein are only defensive because one of their own was involved, Sarah Jeong, even falling back on the idea that every ism and phobia takes power plus privilege, which is in no way the official definition, just the one used by social justice warriors. How does hashtag kill all men not offend more leftists? In their heads, they seem to think it would just mean white men, which is fine and funny to them. But the hashtag technically would also include black, Hispanic, Muslim, Asian, disabled, transgender, and gay men as well, all supposedly protected groups by the left. Does that alter their lack of outrage? Well,
I think as long as they keep it in white countries, it's sort of taken as read that they only mean white men. And they want to make sure that this thing isn't going on in any other country where the country folk hate themselves. Well, not the female ones anyway.
Yeah. Well,
men need to hate men of their own race. All right, that's the answer to all of this. Rather, none of this just don't hate business.
There is one other thing too that Ash may not be aware of. Ash, honey, what you don't know is that all men are becoming white men in the eyes of progressives, and at this point, gay men no longer have victim status; they are considered privileged. Black men are the white people of black people. There was literally an article written with that title. Trans men, or trans women rather, I don't know where that sort of sits, but I think it's only a matter of time before they lose their status. I know that that's actually probably up for discussion right now within the feminist spheres as to whether or not they are real women.
Yeah, I was gonna say, TERFs
yeah,
are
the
pushing
TERFs
for it.
Yeah.
And gay men are the straight men of the LGBT community now.
Gay men
they're
are
officially out of the progressive stack.
Yep. And
They got booted,
Asians and Jews
after
are
the shooting in
privileged
Florida.
too. Yeah. And Asians and Jews are obviously also privileged. So men are being this isn't going to protect men in any way. They're
Oh,
it's
don't
all
forget,
about
Mexicans are white if they get into a conflict with a black guy.
Yes.
When it's sometimes white women sometimes white women fall a few steps down, but they always seem to get back up to the top when they need to.
Yeah, white women. Andy F has
it
it right.
Seems to be white women making most of the rules, and white men. Come to think of it, they're the ones making all of these rules about where white men seem to like it right at the bottom, and white women seem to like it, kind of doing whatever the fuck they feel like for the sake of proving whatever point they're trying to make.
Andy F says it in the chat. White women are the men of women.
Yeah, they are. Although they still manage to maintain their women status, people tend to forget that they're still women sometimes. So, Hokey Bukisa gives us $1.99 and says #MakeFakeRape. Anime was a mistake. All right. Well, I don't know. So there you go. There you go. Thank you, Ash, for that. And what's his name? The Ezra Klein defends the hashtag, and it's because it's his friends that he's looking out for. He's protecting Sarah Jeong with her crazy, insane, hateful language that she was using. Not that I would want to censor her, because I wouldn't, and I personally don't care. But it's just the double standard turns its head.
How would this not tear the left wing apart? Where you got everyone making every excuse for Sarah Jeong, and meanwhile Count Dankula's getting fined and will possibly go to jail when he doesn't pay that fine for what was definitely a joke. How do they? Because they've got to fit the entire world into this doublethink of theirs. Mm-hmm. How do you defend Sarah Jeong, while simultaneously demanding that people be prosecuted under the law for saying much less racist things than that? How do they do it? How are they doing it?
I don't
or is it
know.
Just that they split up into two teams? Like half of us defend Sarah Jeong, the other half attack Count Dankula and Tommy Robinson and that lot. And we'll just never argue with each other. Like if we see each other in a debate, we'll just wink at each other and go, this isn't my fight. Look.
I think that the truth of it is, I believe that they come up with the conclusion, which is what they should feel about Count Dankula and what they should feel about Sarah Jeong. And then the only challenge is coming up with reasons why their conclusion is correct. Kind of like religion.
I wonder what would happen if people started reporting every UK woman that posts a hashtag kill all men to the police for saying something offensive.
Nothing would happen.
It'd be interesting considering they're advocating gendercide.
Yeah, there's a French honey badger gives us €5 and says, how do they do it? They have no principles and no standards. They only use other people's standards against them. Yeah, that's it. They don't play by the rules of logic and reason and truth. They just say, we don't like this person, and so now we have to come up with reasons why what we're doing to this person is okay. That's why there's violence. It's like all this sort of what is it? What do we call it? The whole morality is not based on any universal principles. It's just in the moment, whatever's convenient. The ends justify the means. There's no such thing as bad tactics, only bad targets, etc., etc. Speaking of which, we're going to get into the next story because it's basically the same. Democrat darling Alecandira Ocasio-Cortez is at it again, making a fool of herself in front of the world. The Democratic Socialist who won the Democratic Party for New York's 14th Congressional District has been playing the woman card whenever anyone criticizes her. Who would have thought it? Recently, she accused Ben Shapiro of catcalling her after he offered to give her $10,000 to her campaign or a charity of her choice if she would come on his show and either debate him or have a sit-down discussion with him during one of his Sunday specials.
Have you seen Mundane Matt's getting catcalled like the king of the jungle right now, eh?
In her tweet, she said, quote, "Just like catcalling, I don't owe anyone a response to unsolicited requests from men with bad intentions. And also like catcalling, for some reason they feel entitled to one." However, hypocritically, in a past tweet, she revealed how she was harassing her primary opponent at home at his office on a weekend, stating that, quote, "My opponent seems to be avoiding a debate and isn't acknowledging me. It's just the two of us. So, on the weekend, I stopped by his office, said hello, and asked for a debate in person. I am the first congressional challenger in 14 years. The Bronx and Queens deserve to know their options." Ben couldn't resist mocking the old tweet, tweeting, "This sort of catcalling is unacceptable. I have been reliably informed." Someone tweeted at Ocasio-Cortez criticizing her recent interviews by stating, quote, "There is a striking contrast between the scoldy, condescending tone of coverage of Ocasio's 2018's budget hand-waving and the decade of credulous verging on worshipful coverage of the same from Paul Ryan." In response, Ocasio-Cortez tweeted, quote, "First-time female candidate makes small slip on a budgetary figure during extemporaneous interview. This girl is so uninformed, she needs to stay quiet until she knows everything. Incumbent male congressman brings a snowball to Congress to disprove climate change." Whew. This woman. Also, an additional thing that happened that you might find funny is Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks he basically made a tweet saying that this kind of challenging of this woman to a debate and offering her money is ridiculous and something about the right-wing media bias or whatever. And then he went to, he tweeted at Ted Cruz, Senator Ted Cruz, saying, "I challenge Ted Cruz to a debate and I also offer $10,000, where we can debate something or whatever." And Ted Cruz responded saying, stop catcalling me.
I swear, I like Ted Cruz more and more as the days pass.
I know. I didn't want to, but he is pretty funny. So I gotta give it to him. That's pretty good. Anyway, wanting to challenge somebody to a debate is now catcalling.
Meow.
Yeah. Does that mean that if somebody does this to Alecandira Ocasio-Cortez on Twitter, but they happen to be in Nottingham at the time, do they get arrested for that? If she says that, do people show up at your house and arrest you? Because I understand catcalling is a hate crime there. If I remember correctly.
Not only is it catcalling for a builder to yell "Oi, love," to them legs go all the way, it's also catcalling for a very attractive, very rich man to say to a woman, "Would you like to sit and talk for a while?" So yeah, it's literally saying anything at all to a woman. It's
pretty much.
This is a form of hate speech, which lock him up. There's been everyone's done every version of this tweet, and Ben Shapiro's done a few of his own because it's even just do them all yourselves.
I don't know if well, never mind. I was just gonna say I don't know if Ben can see that, like what is being used here. And if the worst part is this woman gets votes. There are people that think that she's right when she says someone challenging her to a debate is catcalling. So if she like makes headway politically and ends up, God forbid, running for president someday, and then she has to enter an actual debate fixed by the sort of the media and the democratic process. If she participates because it's sort of mandatory, does that mean that she's being forced to be catcalled at? Does that mean, is that like a form of rape now, that she has to show up to these debates that she doesn't really want to have with men who feel entitled to her attention? Do we want somebody like that in charge of anything? I don't want her to run.
I know a few people that would say yes.
Oh, no.
It'd be interesting to see if she actually makes any headway, because the candidates that she's supporting are losing their primaries. So she may have her popularity in her little area, but I'm not so sure she has all that much popularity anywhere else.
No, I don't think it's going to go over very well. Plus, she's got crazy eyes. And I don't think that works very well. Although I'd probably elect overly attached girlfriend over her any day. So
Well, the fun thing would be to get her into a debate and piss her off, because
to see if we can get her eyes crazier.
Has crazy eyes. Yes, pissing them off. It's fun to see how they look when you piss them off.
I bet she's probably really hot when she's angry. I bet she does like smoldery, like Ice Queen eyes when she's angry. But she's just.
Then you
just
tell her
balls
she's
to the wall, terrified when she's happy.
Yeah.
You just tell her she's cute when she's mad, and that makes it worse.
Oh, I bet if you said all that to her, she would lose her shit. Her pupils would shrink to the size of a molecule. Like, they would just go white. Oh, I got super chats
Steam
here.
would come out her ears.
Yeah, steam would come out of her ears, and her face would turn beet red. French Honey Badger gives us $5 and says, or €5, and says, reality does not have a leftist bias. That's why they lash out. And Field of Bears gives us $5 and says, but guys, don't you see? 1 and 1 makes candy, and the bad team is always bad, and their leader is never wrong, or the leader is never wrong. She'd swear at you in Puerto Rican. That's not a language. Is she Puerto Rican? I weep. I weep for our people. If that's what we got. I think she is, though, because she's from New York, and that's anybody with a Hispanic last name is probably Puerto Rican if they live in New York.
Right, now I finally get to tell you, like I keep telling the Australians, you are not responsible for the shitheads from your country. You do not need to apologize in the comment section for the absolute nut jobs I found on my channel who happen to be from the same country as you. Like, we know you're not like them. It's okay.
Somebody in the comment section asked if we could use the steam from her ears to cook steamed hams. Steamed hams. Thanks for that. All right, well, thanks, guys, for the super chats. Let me know what you think about the catcalling story, and why do you think somebody like Cortez has made this kind of progress at anything at all? And keep that in the comment section, please. So, next story. I love this one. Hungarian government has decided to remove gender studies for universities, according to a Daily Wire article written by, you guessed it, Ash Scow, Dad Ash. A government official said the programs are based on, quote, ideology rather than science, and another spokesman told Breitbart News that there is no demand for such degrees. Quote, there is no economic rationale for studies such as these, he said, as the degree does not, quote, furnish students with skills that can be readily and directly converted on the labor market. He added that the programs aren't suitable, the programs are not sustainable, and, quote, take away valuable resources from other programs, deteriorating the economic stability of universities. As Scow put it, quote, gender outrage warriors will have to be taught grievances from somewhere else. However, it seems like there were not many in Hungary to begin with. Only 2 universities even offer gender studies at the graduate level, and apparently, quote, only 13 students enrolled in them this year. Wow, Hungary sounds pretty cool. Although
sounds pretty based. I was reading that and wondering, there is no economic rationale for studies such as these. They do not furnish students with skills that can be readily and directly converted on the labor market. And I wondered if that can extend to the arts, like it stereotypically does when schools lose funding. They lose the arts because they're considered,
the least
they don't
necessary.
they don't lead to high-paying jobs and shit. But there is a labor market for musicians. There is a labor market for illustrators. There's a labor market for any kind of weird art. But the only labor market for gender studies graduates is this racket. But don't get me wrong, you can make a hell of a lot of money. You can make way more money being a feminist racketeer than you can being a struggling artist. But it's unsustainable because it relies on a bunch of lies. And those lies have to keep growing. And everything grows with it.
But Mike, didn't they open up that big gender studies plant in Hungary recently?
I'm going to start calling Artemis House the local women's shelter here in Dayton, Ohio, gender studies plant.
Is that gender studies plant? Is that nuclear, solar, or wind? I just wanted to know how it's powered. Or is it just
totally
hot
wind?
air? What is it? Salt. 100%
yes, but no
bitterness.
Batteries because you get in trouble for that.
I'm like I said before, their ability to simultaneously believe that Joan is okay and Alex Jones is not okay. I think there's some. They must have a black hole in their brain or something. And if we can harness that energy, I swear there's infinite energy in that. in that kind of brain failure, there must be.
And they do make a lot of money, though. They do make a lot of money, and they make it in industries like I just brought up. Women's shelters are employers of women's studies majors, research organizations that come out with like women's publications and that fund them and so on. Those are funders of feminism, and they're organizations that create jobs for gender studies majors. Their entire thing is all sort of encapsulated within itself. It's all gender studies funds gender studies, and gender studies creates gender studies jobs. And it's like a house of cards that's in a big circle, and there's no top and there's no bottom, but it all relies on all of the other cards remaining in place, and as soon as you start to pull them out, it all disappears. So I'm thinking Hungary might actually escape the battered women's racket, wherein they're using battered women's syndrome and as an excuse to commit crimes. Women are using battered women's syndrome as an excuse to commit crimes, and women are using allegations against their soon-to-be ex-husbands to gain upper footing in divorce and so on. They may spare themselves a world of hurt just by keeping gender studies out of their universities.
I was looking into it, and Hungary did have. They had a bad experience with communism back in the day, and I think that's one of the main reasons why they're very focused on. They're currently a very capitalist country, from what I've read.
They learned their lesson.
They learned their lesson. Yes, they've changed. They've changed their ways, and they're made up of mostly, obviously Hungarians and also Roma, Germans, Romanians, Slovaks, Croats, Serbs, and Slovenes, or Sloven people from Slovenia, I believe it is. So they have. I would say that they're relatively. I don't know, homogenous. I mean, if there's any Hungarians watching, maybe you can give me a little bit of info on there. But yeah, somebody said everyone had a bad experience. But you almost wonder if they were called Hungary before communism or if that became the name during the time. But I kid. I joke. Yes, a Slav salad. But they definitely, I think they get it. As far as what Mike was talking about, the thing about artists, so like when you're going to gender studies, there isn't much you can do except, again, as Mike said, become a part of the racket. Most of the time, that means people go into human resources, therapy of some kind, or they go back into the education system. So it doesn't really have that much of a use. It doesn't produce very much. And of course, we know it creates more problems than it solves. However,
music and art eventually results in a product that anyone in the general public likes, and everyone in the general public does like to spend money on music and art and stuff like that. But there's nothing about gender studies that I want to spend my fucking tax dollar on. Nothing, let alone my voluntary dollars.
Yeah. Somebody's saying that the capitalist thing is horseshit. Well, it's just something I saw on Wikipedia when I was looking into it, so maybe not so much. I apologize if I'm wrong. The thing I was going to say is that when it comes to artists, this is the challenge. Lots of people want to be artists when art school presents itself as an option. Lots of people, especially young people that are at that age, they feel like they're artists. The problem is that very few of them actually succeed at being artists. So it's like, it borders on being worth it if you're going to be part of the, let's say, and I'm being really charitable here, 10% that actually make use of their artistic talent and skills when they're out. Almost, except that there's 90% of people who basically just build up a bunch of college debt in skills that they're not really good at, that they end up paying for years and years and years to come, working in baristas and getting regular jobs. So, without going on too much of a tangent, I always, as an artist myself, I always felt that this is something that probably doesn't need to be taught in colleges, but instead, there should maybe be a different way to learn. Either you could self-learn, which would cost you nothing, or maybe we could bring back apprenticeships. That was something that I wanted to do before I went to art school, was be somebody's apprentice. But we're weird about apprenticeships. We don't do that a lot, and it means that you have to spend a lot of time with another artist who is really good at what they do, and maybe that guy could be a man that you have to be spending a lot of time with. So maybe they shouldn't be allowed. I mean, Frank Frazetta had a lot of apprentices under his tutelage, and we all know he made really great work. So I think that maybe that's what Hungary should do. Maybe that's what they're doing for artists. I don't know. There's definitely a solution. I don't think you could... I mean, I suppose you could be the apprentice of a feminist, but I don't know what that... You'd be more like a familiar or, some kind of zombie under the control of this necromancer. But if you're actually an apprentice...
They prefer the term thrall.
Yeah.
Just be careful. Just be careful which feminist you apprentice under. I hear some of them are kind of dangerous.
Yeah. So...
Have you heard of a tale called The Sorcerer's Apprentice? Don't give them apprentices. Let them have millions of little broomsticks running around everywhere because they know how to summon the demon, but they don't know how to get rid of it.
There you go. So, anyway, I would think that, when it comes to the arts, Hungary has another way out. And it would probably mean that they'd have to, only give this to the best. But I don't know. I'm not from there. So if there's anything you guys want to add to this, please leave a comment below. I'd be interested to hear what you guys think. And also, what do you think? Maybe, do you think we should follow suit? Should we also do what they're doing? Get rid of gender studies? That will likely come with other humanities courses, even other sort of, say, liberal arts courses will probably go with it. So is that worth it? Or maybe should there be another way that this is done? I know that Trump's already cut funding in the United States for, arts courses, and this has pissed people off, but I kind of see where it's coming from. All right, so moving on to the next story. This one is for Mike J. So
yes, it is.
I'm going to give this to you, my man. Go ahead and take it.
Thank you, Brian. So yes, SJWs defend demons, unironically. With this year's QuakeCon coming to a close, social media is rife with nuclear hot takes about the games shown and the reactions to them. But none are as hot or are as controversial as the reactions to a few segments during the Doom Eternal gameplay reveal, which was fucking badass, by the way.
Awesome, yes.
Roughly halfway through the demonstration, as the Doom guy cuts his way through a horde of demons, blue holographic female pops up to remind us that, quote, demon can be an offensive term. Refer to them as mortally challenged, end quote. And a little bit later, she enthusiastically tells us that, quote, Earth is the melting pot of the universe, end quote. These sentiments received a good chuckle from the crowd, and it's clear why to anyone who's played the previous Doom game that came out in 2016. In the previous game, the Union Aerospace Corporation, the evil company responsible for the release of the demons, are basically demon-worshipping Satanists. But this didn't stop the progressive hordes on Twitter from making it all about racism and anti-immigration sentiments. I believe we've got a few of those quotes here from at S.
Ridenour?
Close enough. In my humble opinion, Doom 2016 was fun, and the irreverent tone was refreshing, but whatever challenged and melting pot jokes are super bad taste at a time when ICE has literally become the new Gestapo and white supremacists are trying to stir up mass anti-immigration sentiment.
See, I did watch that demo, and I did laugh when I heard that bit. I didn't think of any particular subject when I laughed at it. I just laughed. It's the attitude that is funny. It's the idea of taking any bad thing and wording it into banality, and sort of I laughed. And oh yeah, that's that stupid behavior that some people have. But you see, it works like a bit of a Rorschach test. There's nothing about it that says it's necessarily about immigrants. Nothing about it that says it's necessarily about the disabled, which is another way of work. There's no particular angle given, but people read the one they care about most in that particular moment. So this, who's this? Oh, Tryhard. Hello, Tryhard. Yes.
Appropriately named.
You're into shit about immigration. Good. Now we know.
The ride doesn't end there, though.
No.
So at Musket Anna, this isn't projection or anything, which is how you know it's going to be projection. Immigrants are vicious, violent, animalistic, and will destroy society. And has always been anti-immigrant rhetoric, and seeing it in a huge, big budget anticipated game like this broadcasted to an audience of tens of thousands, try millions, is bad.
Yeah, try millions for sure. And also, Windlass, this says a lot more about what you think about immigrants than what id thinks. Is it
yes,
id
half
that's
of the
making
quote
this?
that's in there wasn't even in the fucking game. She just pulled that out of her ass.
These people are demons.
I was gonna say they've gotten to the point where they're recycling their old arguments. There is no anti-immigration sentiment. There's anti-illegal immigration sentiment, but there's not anti-immigration sentiment. They're actually demonizing legal immigrants themselves by equating them with illegal immigrants. Like the person that actually goes through the process, that works hard to assimilate into this country, into the bizarre, large, wandering, meandering culture that we have that doesn't always make sense. Those guys are now the equivalent of people who grab somebody else's kid and sneak across the border and then try to use this kid they've been abusing along the way to obtain asylum. Like, they're the same now in the eyes of everybody that's defending illegal immigration.
Yep.
But we're the ones demonizing immigrants. Come on.
You know,
Demonizing.
literally demonizing them. And also, just as an aside, what we're saying is, cacodemons can come into this dimension. They just gotta get in line like everybody else and do their paperwork and, you know, get ready for the Constitution test and all of the other stuff. And you can indeed come into our dimension. We wouldn't even consider you an invader at this point. You know, just go through the proper outlets, do it properly, and then become a productive member of society. Yeah, and you'll be able to go get right on Tumblr and start your little cacodemon focused website.
You know, every day we think SJWs have outdone themselves, and then they outdo themselves again. I reckon if someone somehow literally did summon a demon from hell, if for whatever reason we're in a universe where that's possible, and someone actually literally summons a huge fucking demon from hell, they probably would defend it like it's a beached whale.
Yeah.
No, the demon beast has rights too.
That's right.
Unless it runs for president as a Republican, then they'll throw it under the bus immediately.
I mean, he just wants the souls of the unborn. Why don't we just, these women don't want their babies anyway. Just give them to the demon. All right.
We got two more.
Yeah, we got more
a breath
tweets.
of fresh air. So, at Gnarly Animal. Anyways, I'm hyped about Doom Eternal still, but it's a muted hype because I can't ignore that dog whistly immigration joke in the trailer.
Dog whistle is officially overused.
Oh, very much.
I want a cat whistle now. Not a cat call, not a dog whistle. I want a cat whistle.
Dog whistle. Oh my god.
The cat whistle's insidious because the cat can hear it, it just doesn't care about it.
So you never know if it works or not.
Nope.
All right, Mike J.
And at Stefan Bayron, I was really looking forward to this, but now I'm not sure if I can support the game in good conscience. No, you weren't going to buy this game in the first place.
No.
Because you didn't buy the previous game. Or if you did, you would understand these jokes. Some people say that SJWs and political correctness have ruined gaming, but I start to get the feeling that Doom Eternal might be the first where the opposite is true.
Where gaming ruins gaming? What does that mean? Oh, the opposite of political... What is the opposite of political correctness?
Everything we don't like.
Is it fun? I think that's the opposite, is fun. Good lord.
That's why I keep harping on about why does everyone keep calling it political correctness? Like on both sides, we just like this shorthand of just referring to it as political correctness. Try and think of another word. Like, because you find you'll reach for one and you can't find anything that sounds remotely as fluffy as political correctness. You can't call anything political correctness.
Mm-hmm.
I know. Just as an exercise, if you couldn't call it political correctness anymore, well, what would you call it? I don't know. It's some kind of genetic determinism. Right?
What's the opposite of a dog whistle? Oh yeah, right.
Well, it's a cat call, presumably.
Cat farts. One of the deadliest weapons on the planet, by the way.
Cat farts are bad. Dog farts might be worse. But I don't know. That's my thought. Anyway, let's see. Oh yeah, so back on the let's get back on one more.
Though at least one Twitter user seems to have some semblance of common sense, and that would be at JekkoJekkoUEM. The point of the political correctness stuff in Doom's demo footage is to show how modern immigration rhetoric could be adopted to justify a literal demonic invasion. It's funny and poignant. If you see the jokes towards demons as being about actual people of color, that's kind of racist.
Yeah,
10 out of 10. GG, brother. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's a Rorschach test. You see whatever thing is pissing you off at the moment, and that says nothing about anyone but you.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're demons. They're literally demons. We can't go any further. And here is something that we are actually allowed to demonize in this fiction. Like I say, they'll take it beyond fiction anyway. So,
well, I guess we'll really test it when real demons come, and they can't come soon enough sometimes. All right, Mike J. Oh, well, I got some super chats, but do you want to? Is there something else that I have the meme? Do you want me to show the meme?
Oh yeah, show that off. Come on, I spent like 30 minutes on that, man.
No, I think it's a good meme. It's next on the list here.
Okay.
So, this is the meme that Mike J made. I think it's beautiful. It's actually my first thought when I saw the Doom trailer was that, because it's the same. Is it the same developers that are doing the new Doom that did the Wolfenstein? That was id.
No. It was. It is doing. It's doing Doom. Machine Games is the ones that were behind that mess that was Wolfenstein 2.
Yeah, so I have the first Wolfenstein, the New Order, and I mean
that one was great.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, I liked it. But the new one, the Colossus or whatever it was called, something Colossus.
That was the DLC for the first one. This was just Wolfenstein 2.
This is just called Wolfenstein 2. Oh, okay. Well, I didn't play that one, but that was the one that had like the where he's like, it was like Punch Nazis was part of the marketing campaign, and the guys like teaming up with like black communists or
Actual
something.
communists.
Yeah, you're teaming up with actual communists to fight against the fascist Nazis, and it didn't. I wasn't interested, not just because of those reasons. I just wasn't. I don't know. I didn't hear much about it. The hype kind of died down really fast, so I just kind of left it out. But I like this as a really good meme because it's like the Virgin Blaskowitz with these comments and the Chad Doomslayer, which is exactly what we need. Powered by anger, has no time for thoughts, pisses off progressives, heavy metal soundtrack, has never heard of stealth. This is good. So I wasn't, I didn't really think about Doom until I saw that trailer, and I'm like, I think I'm ready to buy this now, especially when I saw that they were taking a zero fucks given approach to, I guess, trying to be overly careful about what they say. Not even like necessarily to be anti-SAW, but to be more like, look, we're just going to do what we're going to do, right? And this is what Doom is. It was just like the spirit is there, it seems to me.
Yeah, it doesn't give a fuck about these things.
It doesn't give a fuck about anything. Just like killing demons and looking like a badass while doing it. It's just badassery from beginning to end. It was like fucking Hardcore Henry. Any of you guys ever see that?
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
All right, so let me read some super chats.
It's just a coincidence, by the way.
What?
It's just a coincidence that B.J. Blazkowicz is a Jew and Doom Guy is a Catholic, according to law. It's their law. We didn't invent that law. Did you know Doom Guy is a Catholic?
No.
It's a little known piece of information.
When did that come up? Because
it's part of the original story, and that's what sort of drove him to. They figured it would be appropriate if the protagonist was a Catholic.
Because I'm gonna challenge you here, because the whole lore has been that the Doom Guy is actually the eventual grandson of Blazkowicz.
Oh, maybe we've been reading different laws.
Well,
this has been the accepted one. Yeah, and Commander Keen is the one that came in between both of them.
Oh, right.
Who's Commander Keen?
Who's Commander Keen? But you're older than me. How do you not? Suppose you weren't. Well, you were console peasant even in the 80s.
I was. I didn't have a computer. I didn't have a computer till the turn of the century.
Yeah, Commander Keen was the first big sort of platformer on PCs.
Also by id Software.
Also by id Software, yeah. And then they went on to make Wolfenstein and then Doom and then Quake. They did one fun little platforming game, and then it was just FPSs, grosser and grosser for the rest of their career. It's great.
I didn't know that. Little known trivia there. So, but is the guy from Quake related to any of these people? Is that like further in the future, the Quake guy? And why do we just call him? We just call him Doom Guy. He doesn't have a name, right? He just looks a lot like.
He's some Blazkowicz descendant, as far as I remember.
Well, he's clearly on a different level these days. All right, so I got some super chats here because I don't want to miss them. Peter Niatre, whatever, gives us $5 and says, recently read an article from Reddit that gender studies professors are making more than STEM professors.
This is true.
Wow.
Yeah, that is true. In fact, there have been articles about the fact that they're taking away from other areas of the university because if you don't pay women's studies professors or gender studies professors what they think is on par with the other sciences, you get threatened with lawsuits and discrimination cases and so on. So they do pay them more. And some of them, if they're bad professors, it's harder to get rid of them too because they know all the complaint angles and they know how to cover their bases. They know how to essentially engage in the outside of the court world version of vexatious litigation. And so you end up with a lot of these professors being tenured, and they are there for decades, and so you end up with them. They don't ever do anything else but maybe write books. So you end up with somebody that's getting the highest pay they possibly can from the university because they've negotiated pay raises, and they've had years and years to do that, and they're expensive as all get out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I can see that. It's shit. I think maybe I wonder what the let's say the number of kids that go into the gender studies courses compares to the number of that go into the STEMs as majors. I wonder
Well,
because
there's another issue there.
I would assume the barrier of entry is a lot higher for STEM than it is for, for gender studies. Plus, you have to really want to go into STEM if you're going to do it. And I think for gender studies, it's like sometimes people just don't know what they want to do, and then they just end up getting involved with that because
Well, there's another thing to take it. Like, not everybody that takes math is a math major. And just different types, like people who take statistics, for instance, may not take many other math courses because they're not math majors. They're majoring in something else. They may be majoring in business. They may be majoring in some STEM profession where they're planning to be a researcher. They need to take statistics for that. They may be taking it for other reasons. But the same is true with certain gender studies courses. Some of them are required. Business courses require you to take some gender studies courses, or business majors are required to take some gender studies courses. The types of courses you have to take to be able to deal with the issues the human resources deals with. Uh, the same is true in psychiatry and
Mm-hmm.
psychology.
Mm-hmm.
There are gender studies courses that are required for psych majors. There are gender studies courses that are required for management majors, political science majors, history majors, anything that you can major in basically in school. Gender studies proponents have weaseled their way into having at least one class in that major. And that's how their departments really survive. It's not gender studies majors that those departments survive on. It's the fact that, they're now called interdisciplinary studies because of this. They've weaseled their way into all of the other disciplines, and are basically infecting everything with their ideology, and they get paid for that a lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it does sort of pay for. I mean, there you go. That's probably why they get paid more. Those professors. Let's see what else. French Honey Badger gives us €5 and says Hungarians come from Asia with Attila. They understand how invasions work. Mr. Roboto gives us $2 and says Nick Cage's next movie, The Feminist Apprentice. Oh, you know what? The Sorcerer's Apprentice was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I did watch it, sadly. Joey Jojo gives us $2 and says Cacodemon Lives Matter. Yeah, we shouldn't be separating cacodemons from the imps at the border and putting them in cages. Just let them in. Hoki Bukisa gives us $1.99. Thank you, sir. And says political correctness. How about whammon soft? Whammon soft. All right. So thank you guys for the super chats. I'll be more than glad to read more of them if you give them to us. Let us now move on to the next story, I guess. So, Mike, this is the last story, I believe.
That's correct. So, the Sky King. Richard Russell, better known to his friends and family as Bebo, hijacked a Q400 passenger plane late last Saturday. The 29-year-old baggage handler and ground crew member from Seattle hijacked the plane while it was in for maintenance before taking it for a spin above Puget Sound. Within minutes, 2 F-15 fighter jets were dispatched to shadow Russell as he performed a series of breathtaking aerial maneuvers, including a backflip. As the pilots of the F-15s in airport control attempted to talk Russell down, his motives and mindset became clear. Russell joked and even held casual conversation the whole time. He noted the sights of Mount Rainier and expressed the desire to find a mother whale that had been seen in the news recently. But among the jokes, he revealed a man who clearly had problems. Quote, "Got a lot of people that care about me. It's going to disappoint them to hear that I did this. I would like to apologize to each and every one of them. I'm just a broken guy. Got a few screws loose, I guess. Never really knew it until now." He also expressed his desire to not want to hurt anyone with what he was doing. But with fuel running low and the engines failing, and despite the best efforts of air traffic control, Russell plunged the plane down into the sparsely inhabited Ketron Island. So far, Russell is presumed to be the only casualty.
All right. Yeah, it was really unfortunate. I saw the video of this, and I thought, I don't know, I thought that we should probably share it. Sorry to put it on like a kind of a depressing note at the end there. But one of the things that I thought was really interesting about it was I think he was talking to the somebody at traffic control, and he said, "Do you know if I land this plane, do you guys think I could get a job there?" Or something to that effect. I know that you were just reading that out, but I remember him saying after that, "Nah, I'm a white guy," like he knew it wouldn't happen. And I don't know if that was related or just something he was just joking about. But I guess in a way it stood out for me, and that was one of the reasons why I picked it. Other than the fact that we're just looking at another example of male suicide, and it's just something that you guys should be aware of. So
I want to also point out that he did say that, but just like given his demeanor and given his casualness about the entire other thing, I definitely think it was a joke. And I do know some people out there are really, really trying to make that into their total argument for the thing of, oh, he was disenfranchised. He was clearly marginalized in this field. And I think he was just joking, because you can clearly tell on the audio transcript, I think it goes on for at least half an hour. There are times when he's joking around, and then there are times when he's really just stone cold serious. And he was clearly joking around. He also joked around the reason he mentioned, he's like, oh, maybe minimum wage. Let's chalk it up to that. Maybe that'll get the higher ups to grease the wheels a bit for you guys down there, and maybe you'll get some more money that way.
yeah.
So,
yeah, I can understand that, and I think it's important to be, critical of it. I guess that was a bit that got my attention, but like to what you were saying, I watched the half-hour long. I think it's like a half hour. It's actually on the next slide here, but I don't think we have time to play it because it's too long, and I don't want to get a strike. But I did put it. Well, Lindsay put it in the slide for me, so that if I wanted to watch part of it, we could.
I'll just say, make sure you find the unedited version out there, because there is a few versions floating around that actually cut out that part where he says it. So it's like, oh great, now you guys are going to turn this into a fucking conspiracy just because you closed off this one part. So, good job, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, like I said, find it. Like maybe I can get the link to this one, because I think this is an uncut version. Joey Jojo gives us $2 and says, a permanent solution to temporary problems. Yeah, I think that the guy genuinely had psychological issues, but I can't understate that all that tells me is, it goes back to something I said before. There was another suicide that we did a story on, and I was saying to the audience, and I will repeat myself here, if you have friends in your life, male friends in particular, but just friends in general, anybody that you know, and you don't get a chance to talk to them very much, or you don't know what they're up to, and you haven't connected for a while, and this also applies to family, reach out to them and see how they're doing. Ask them, how are you doing? Let them know that you care about them. Even if you don't have to explicitly say it, you can just say, hey man, how's it going? I haven't talked to you in a while. What's going on? And I think that sometimes just doing that can make all the difference in the world for people. They just want to know that somebody is thinking about them. And yeah, like I'm gonna hang out with a friend this weekend that I haven't seen in at least, I mean, several months, if not a year. I think it's been a year. And he's going through a divorce, and he's losing his kids, and his wife had, originally they were going to break it off, like, smooth and clean without involving lawyers or anything, and that was like their decision, but she's like started lawyering up behind his back, and he found out about it through someone else, and it just tore him up, right? So I'm like, well, we're gonna hang out this weekend. We're just gonna shoot the shit and just like unwind, because I could not possibly understand how difficult that must be. The potential for losing your children, at least potentially like forever, and to have somebody that you had put, I think he was married to her for like 10 years, if not longer, and then she's just doing this stuff to him. I don't know what that could do to someone's state. So all I would offer is my company and, my, I guess you could say companionship, and I think that makes a big difference. And I don't know what this guy's story was. I mean, he may have been screwed up from the beginning, but I guess the only thing I can offer as something to think about is, do you have friends that you feel like you might want to keep tabs on? They don't have to show any signs of anything, just for its own sake, because they're worth it. And I think that we need to connect with each other, like in in the real world, not just on the internet or over the phone, but like make the trip, go to their house, make an effort, and I think that it could make a big difference. So that's all I could think about. I'm just saying that for me, I just want people to connect more. I think that's what we need. I'm not saying that that'll change anything that happened here, but I do think that it's important.
If I can add one moment of levity, that was a really fucking sick loop-to-loop.
Yeah, right. He did learn how to do some cool things in the plane, except land it. But yeah, that was pretty cool. Anybody else have any other thoughts before we close the show off? No? Wow, surprisingly low key this week. Okay. Well, I guess then all that's left to do is to wrap it up. Let me see if there's any new super chats before we do so. No? We're good on that? All right, well, I guess I'm going to thank you guys for joining us on the show. We're going to be going into the after show now. We're going to be looking at this article entitled, "Why Are Modern Men Obsessed with Self-Improvement? Young Men Are Being Encouraged to Curb Their Appetites and Detox Their Masculinity," by Laura Pendergast. And I will say this. For some reason, men taking care of themselves without women involved at all is misogyny. So we're going to find out how in the after show. If you guys want to be a part of the after show, you have to become a patron. So please consider being a patron at www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. So you can join us on our after shows. I would like to thank all of my co-hosts for joining us on the show today, and I want to thank especially you guys for watching. Please hit that like button if you haven't already, and also, if you're not subscribed to the Badger live stream channels, do so, because this is where all the live shows are going to be for the foreseeable future, as well as follow us on Twitch and on Facebook. That's also another place you can watch the videos. So I have been Brian. Thank you so much for joining us on the HBR News Show, and have a lovely, lovely day.